The storm in the island. The ocean was wild that night. Waves rose like giant walls, crashing down with the roar of thunder. The small boat that carried the human man tossed from side to side as if it were nothing more than a toy. Rain fell hard. Stinging his skin, wind screamed in his ears. The man held the ropes tightly, but his strength was nothing against the fury of the storm. He had no name on his lips, no thought except survival. Hours passed in chaos. Then, crack, a wave larger than all the rest struck his boat. Splintered wood filled the air. The boat was gone. He was thrown into the dark water. Salt filled his mouth. He kicked, he struggled, but the sea pulled him down. His arms ached, his chest burned. In those moments he believed he would never breathe again. But fate was strange. His hand struck something solid beneath the water, sand. He pushed upward, coughing, spitting, dragging himself toward land. When at last he collapsed on the beach. The storm still raged above, but he was alive. The sand stuck to his wet skin and the waves tugged at his legs as if trying to drag him back. Yet the man lay still, too tired to move, too grateful to care. When dawn came, the storm was gone. The sea looked calm, innocent, as if it had never been angry at all. The man rose slowly, every muscle aching. He looked around. The island stretched before him, thick jungle at its center, sharp cliffs on one side, white sand on the other. It was silent. No voices, no ships, no signs of life. Only the endless cry of gulls above and the crash of waves on rock. He was stranded. The truth settled in his chest like a heavy stone. No one knew where he was. No one would come for him. He took a slow breath and forced himself to move. He searched the shore looking for food, water, anything from his wrecked boat. He found broken planks, a torn sail, and one small barrel. Inside was only seawater. Useless. His throat grew dry as the sun climbed higher. The jungle waited behind. Him, dark and green. He knew dangers might be inside, but he had no choice. With heavy steps he entered. The air grew thick, hot and wet. Insects buzzed around him. Strange cries echoed from unseen creatures. His heart beat fast. He picked up a broken piece of wood as a weapon. Simple but better than nothing. Hours passed. He found fruit. Strange, purple things hanging from low branches. He sniffed them, tasted carefully, and when no pain came, he ate more. Sweet juice filled his mouth. It gave him strength. He pressed deeper into the jungle, searching for fresh water. Finally, he heard it, the soft trickle of a stream. He fell to his knees beside it and drank deeply, cool water saving his burning throat. For a moment he felt hope. Maybe he could survive here. The island was not empty of food, not empty of water. But as the sun began to fall, the silence of the island changed. Birds that had cried all day grew quiet. The shadows stretched longer. The man felt eyes on him. He looked left, then right, but saw nothing. The jungle seemed to breathe around him, alive, watching. Night fell quickly. Darkness swallowed the trees. The man built a small fire with dry wood and sparks from broken stone. Flames flickered, throwing light in all directions. He sat close to it, every sense alert. He told himself it was only animals that watched, nothing more. But deep inside, he felt something different. Something intelligent. Something hiding. A branch cracked in the distance. He froze. His eyes scanned the dark. The fire crackled. The night air was still. Then another sound, soft like footsteps. Not heavy, but careful. He gripped the wood in his hand. Ready. His breath grew shallow. His mind whispered warnings. He was not alone on this island. The night dragged on, filled with small sounds, movements he could not explain. His fire grew, low, but he dared not sleep. At last, dawn broke again, golden light spilling over the sea. The man's eyes burned with exhaustion, but his heart beat steady. He had survived the storm, survived his first night on the island. Yet one thought would not leave his mind. Something was out there. Something had seen him. Something was waiting. The unexpected discovery. The man woke with sore muscles and heavy eyes. His small fire had turned to ash. and the morning sun was already rising. He stretched, listening to the strange sounds of the island. The jungle was alive again. Birds sang sharp calls, insects buzzed loudly, and somewhere far away, something growled low. He knew he could not stay at the beach forever. If he wanted to survive, he had to explore more. He tied the torn sail around his shoulders like a cloak, took his broken plank as a weapon, and stepped back into the jungle. The air was thick with mist and the ground was wet from the night rain. Hours passed as he walked deeper. He marked trees with sharp stones to remember his way back. Every now and then he stopped, listening. He could not shake the feeling that something followed him. His eyes caught shadows between the trees, but each time he turned, there was nothing there. Then he saw it. Prints in the dirt. Not animal prints, not human either. They were small, delicate, and shaped strangely. The toes were longer, ending in soft curves, and there were patterns around them as if the feet glowed faintly when they touched the ground. The man crouched, touching the marks. They were fresh, less than an hour old. His heart beat faster. He was not imagining things. Someone, or something, was here. He followed carefully, stepping where the prints went. The trail curved around giant trees and through tangled vines until he reached a clearing. At the edge stood something that froze him in place. A shelter, built from broken metal and wood. It was hidden under wide leaves and vines, but it was clearly made with purpose. Pieces of strange, shining material were mixed with shipwreck parts. A thin line of smoke rose from the top, barely visible. The man's throat went dry. His mind filled with questions. He crept closer. The entrance was small, covered by fabric that shimmered faintly in the light. He pushed it aside slowly, and what he saw inside made his breath catch. The shelter glowed with a dim blue light. Strange crystals set into the walls. Tools lay scattered across the ground. Tools not human. Their shapes were smooth, curved, almost alive. In the corner, a bed made from leaves and metallic sheets was neatly arranged, and on that bed sat a figure small and fragile, with her back turned to him. She was not human. Her skin shimmered pale silver, her hair flowed like liquid night, and small wings, broken and folded, rested against her back. She turned suddenly, her eyes wide, glowing faintly. When she saw him, her body stiffened. She leapt to her feet, her hand grabbing a sharp piece of crystal, ready to defend herself. The man raised his hands quickly, showing he meant no harm. I'm not here to hurt you, he said. His voice shook. The alien woman's eyes narrowed. She did not understand his words, but she felt his fear. She kept her weapon close, yet she did not strike. For a long moment they stared at each other, her breathing fast, his heart pounding. She looked weak, thinner than she should be, as if she had been starving for days. Her lips trembled as she whispered something in her own tongue. The sound was soft, musical, but filled with sorrow. The man slowly lowered his hand, reaching into his bag. He pulled out the purple fruit he had collected. He placed it gently on the ground between them. Then he stepped back. The alien woman tilted her head, suspicious. Her glowing eyes studied him. After a long pause, she picked up the fruit, sniffed it, and bit slowly. Juice ran down her lips. For the first time, her expression softened. The man felt a strange relief. He had found another being on this island. Not a monster, not a threat, but someone stranded, like him. She was alone, afraid, and yet alive. He wondered how long she had been here, how she had survived, what had brought her to this place. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the echo of something deep in the jungle. A howl, loud and guttural, shaking the leaves. The alien woman's face instantly changed. Fear filled her glowing eyes. She rushed to the entrance and peered out. Her wings twitched, broken but restless. She turned to him and spoke quickly in her own tongue, pointing to the forest, warning him. The man understood without needing words. Something dangerous was hunting. Her fear told him everything. She grabbed a small satchel of strange tools as if ready to run. Then she looked at him again. Her eyes were uncertain, But there was a spark. Maybe hope, maybe trust. For the first time since he washed ashore, the man realized he was not just fighting for his own survival anymore. There was someone else here, someone who needed him, someone hiding from a danger he could not yet see. The prince, the shelter, the glowing eyes. It was no accident. Fate had brought him here, and deep inside, he knew the discovery of this alien woman was only the beginning of something far greater. The jungle growled again, closer this time. The fire of fear and mystery burned stronger, and as the two strangers stood together in the dim blue light of her shelter, one truth was clear. Neither of them would survive this island alone. The man sat near the entrance of the glowing shelter. His heart still raced from the strange meeting. The alien woman had eaten the fruit he offered, but her eyes stayed sharp, watching every move he made. She was weak, but she carried herself with pride, like someone who refused to break no matter how much pain she carried inside. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the blue light. Her broken wings twitched every now and then as if they once carried her through the skies but now were nothing more than scars of her fall. The man wanted to speak, to ask her questions, but he knew words would not work. She spoke a language he could not understand, and he spoke sounds she could not follow, so he tried something else. He pointed at himself and said slowly, "Human." He tapped his chest again, repeating, "Who, man?" The alien tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke a word, soft and melodic. A name, perhaps. It slipped from her lips like music, but it was too strange for him to repeat. He nodded anyway, showing he understood. They had exchanged names, or at least something close to it. For a moment, a small bridge formed between them, fragile but real. The woman sat back down, her shoulders trembling slightly. The man noticed her wounds more clearly now. Thin cuts across her arms, bruises along her legs, and her wings bent at unnatural angles. She must have suffered for a long time, perhaps from the crash of her ship, perhaps from the creatures of this island. Slowly she reached into her satchel and pulled out a crystal shard. Glowing faintly, she held it in front of her, showing him. Then she touched the shard to a cut on her arm. Light spread across her skin, closing the wound little by little. The man's eyes widened in awe. He had never seen such a thing. Technology or magic, he could not tell. She noticed his wonder and gave him a small, cautious look. Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile, more like a reminder. She was not helpless, even if she seemed fragile. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the jungle again. The same beastly call they had heard before. The woman's body stiffened. Her eyes flashed with fear. She whispered something quickly, almost like a prayer. She grabbed a metallic staff from the corner of her shelter. Though it looked damaged, she held it with the grip of someone who knew how to fight. The man stood too, clutching his broken wooden plank. He felt foolish standing beside her. Her staff was alien and strange. His was just a stick from the wreck. Yet when she looked at him, there was a flicker of respect in her eyes. He was not running away. He was choosing to stay. The sound of snapping branches drew closer. Leaves shook violently. The woman pressed a finger to her lips, signaling him to stay silent. They both crouched low, eyes fixed on the entrance. The jungle outside shifted, but after a tense few moments the sound faded again. When silence returned, she lowered her staff slowly. Her body relaxed, though not completely. She looked at him, her eyes filled with something more than fear now. Loneliness, maybe even relief. He realized she had been fighting this terror all alone until now. No wonder she looked at him differently than before. That night, they stayed together inside her shelter. The man shared more fruit, tearing pieces for her. She hesitated, then accepted. For the first time, she ate without suspicion. Slowly, she began to gesture as she spoke in her language, pointing to the sky, to her wings, and then to the ground. From her movements, he guessed the story. She had flown or traveled among stars, but something went wrong, and she fell here. Tears glimmered in her eyes when she pointed to her wings. Her voice cracked. She could not fly anymore. She had been stranded, broken, and forgotten. The man listened in silence, though he understood. Only pieces still, the sorrow in her voice was clear. He wanted to comfort her, but words failed him, so instead, he placed his hand gently on his chest and then extended it toward her. A simple human gesture. "I will stand with you." She stared at his hand, unsure. Her glowing eyes softened, and after a long pause, she mirrored his gesture, touching her chest, then stretching her hand toward him. Their hands almost met, not quite touching, but close enough to share the meaning. In that small moment, the jungle outside seemed far away. The fear of the beasts, the hunger, the loneliness, all faded. There were only two souls, both stranded, both broken, both clinging to the hope that they were not alone anymore. The fire burned low, shadows dancing along the walls of the strange shelter. The alien woman finally lay down on her bed of leaves, her breathing soft, her eyes closed, though her staff never left her side. The man sat nearby, keeping watch, his own exhaustion heavy but his resolve stronger. As the night deepened, he realized the truth. The island was dangerous, yes, but it was no longer just about his survival. It was about hers too. He could not abandon her, and he felt deep inside that her presence would change everything about his fate. The storm had brought him here, but destiny had placed her in his path. And the man understood this was only the beginning of a bond that neither of them could refuse. The night on the island was never quiet. The jungle sang with strange sounds, clicking insects, distant howls, and the rustling of unseen creatures moving through the leaves. The man sat near the glowing crystals of the alien shelter, his makeshift plank resting beside him. His eyes fought sleep, but his heart refused to rest. Beside him, the alien woman shifted in her bed of leaves and metal sheets. Her breathing was uneven. She was not at peace even in sleep. Sometimes her broken wings twitched, as if she dreamed of skies she would never fly again. At times she whispered words in her strange tongue, soft and trembling. The man could not understand, but he felt the weight of her sorrow in every sound. He looked around the small shelter. His eyes rested on the blue crystals glowing faintly. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. Technology? Magic? He didn't know. But they gave her safety, and now they gave him safety too. Suddenly, the night air shifted. A sound carried through the jungle, low and guttural. The same growl as before. The woman sat up instantly, fear flashing in her glowing eyes. She gripped her broken staff. Her gaze darted toward the entrance. The man felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. The growl grew louder, closer. Leaves cracked under heavy steps. Something big moved just outside. The fire he had built earlier had gone out, leaving only the blue crystal light. He grabbed his wooden weapon, his throat dry, his heart beating like a drum. Then silence. Heavy silence. As if the entire jungle held its breath, the alien woman pressed a finger to her lips again, signaling him to stay quiet. Her wings quivered, her body tense like a bowstring. The man stayed still, barely breathing, his eyes fixed on the thin fabric covering the entrance. A shadow passed across it, huge, monstrous. The woman's hand trembled on her staff. The man's chest tightened. The creature outside sniffed the air, low and deep. The sound alone was enough to freeze his blood. The shadow lingered for long seconds, then slowly moved away. Branches cracked, heavy steps fading into the distance. Only when the jungle sounds returned did the woman lower her staff. Her body shook, but she stayed upright. She had faced this before, many nights, alone. The man realized then how strong she truly was. To survive here, injured and hunted, she had endured more than most humans ever could. He reached into his bag and pulled out another fruit, offering it to her. She hesitated, then accepted, biting carefully. Juice dripped down her chin. She wiped it quickly, her pride not allowing, her weakness to show. But her glowing eyes softened, watching him with something new. Gratitude. After eating, she began to gesture again, pointing to the sky, making shapes with her hands. Her voice flowed in soft tones. He understood fragments. Her ship had fallen, her people were gone, and she had been left here. The monsters outside hunted her. They came every night, drawn by her scent or by the light she carried. The man listened, nodding. He did not understand every detail, but he caught enough. And when her voice cracked, when her eyes filled with unshed tears, he leaned closer, placing his hand gently on the ground between them, a simple gesture of solidarity. She looked at his hand, then back at his eyes. For the first time, she smiled. Not wide, not free, but small and trembling, as if she had forgotten what smiling felt like. They sat together as the night deepened. The man added more wood to the fire, watching the flames dance against the walls of the shelter. The alien woman moved closer, not too near, but near enough that he could feel her warmth. It was a silent trust, fragile, yet real. Hours passed. The jungle outside howled again, but inside the shelter, the two souls found something rare: comfort. The man spoke softly, telling stories in his own language even though she could not understand. He spoke of oceans, of stars, of people waiting somewhere far away. She listened, her eyes half closed, the rhythm of his voice soothing her. At last, exhaustion took them both. The woman leaned her head lightly against the wall, her staff resting in her lap. The man stayed awake longer, keeping watch. His mind replayed everything: the storm, the island, her glowing eyes, the monsters outside. He realized then that survival here would not be about strength alone. It would be about trust, about standing together. He was not just protecting himself anymore. He was protecting her. And in return, she was giving him something he hadn't felt since the storm began: hope. As dawn painted the horizon with pale gold, the man whispered to himself, "We will make it." His voice was low but steady. The alien woman stirred, her eyes opening slightly. She did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning, and for the first time, she did not look like a prisoner of fear. In the bond formed that night, in the darkness lit by fire and glowing crystals, two strangers had taken the first step toward becoming more than survivors. They were becoming allies, perhaps even something greater. The hunter revealed. The sun rose over the island, spilling golden light across the jungle. The man stepped out of the alien woman's shelter, his eyes scanning the trees. The air was heavy, silent, too quiet for morning. Usually, birds cried loudly at dawn, but today they were gone. The silence felt wrong. He returned to the shelter, where the alien woman sat sharpening the broken edge of her staff against a crystal. Her glowing eyes lifted, to him worry hidden behind her calm face. She seemed to feel the same unease. The night before, the hunters had circled them but had not attacked. Why not? The question gnawed at him. They left the shelter together. The woman walked slowly, her broken wings dragging behind her, but she moved with grace. Her staff rested lightly in her hands, ready to strike. The man carried his wooden weapon, crude, but firm. He had no choice but to rely on it. As they moved deeper into the jungle, he noticed more prints on the ground. Large, clawed, pressed deep into the soil. They were fresh. His chest tightened. "It's close," he whispered to himself, though she could not understand. Still, she seemed to know. Her eyes narrowed, her grip on the staff tightening. Suddenly, the jungle erupted. A tree trunk snapped in half with a sound like thunder. Birds burst into the sky, screeching in terror. The man spun, his eyes widening, and then he saw it. A massive creature stepped into the clearing. Its body was reptilian, covered in dark scales that shimmered in the sunlight. Its head was long, its jaws filled with rows of sharp teeth. Two glowing yellow eyes locked onto them, and it let out a roar that shook the air. Leaves fell from the trees and the ground trembled. The alien woman shouted something in her language, her voice urgent. She pushed the man back and raised her staff. The creature lunged forward, its claws tearing through the dirt. The man's instincts screamed at him to run, but he stood his ground. His heart pounded, his body shaking, but he refused to leave her alone. The beast swiped with one massive arm. The woman spun, her staff glowing faintly as it struck against. The scales! Sparks burst, but the creature only roared louder. The man rushed in from the side, slamming his wooden plank against its leg. The strike barely hurt it, but it made the beast stumble for a moment. That moment was enough. The woman leapt forward, driving her staff into the creature's shoulder. The glow spread, burning its flesh. The beast howled, its tail whipping around, striking them both. The man was thrown to the ground, air knocked from his chest. The woman crashed beside him, blood trickling from her lip. The creature circled them, growling, its eyes filled with hunger. They had hurt it, but not enough to stop it. The man pushed himself up, gasping. His body screamed in pain, but his spirit burned with fury. He would not let it take her. He grabbed a sharp rock from the ground, gripping it tight. When the creature lunged again, he dove under its arm, slashing at its softer belly. The rock tore skin, dark blood spilling. The beast roared in rage, staggering back. The alien woman took the chance. Raising her staff high, she shouted words in her language, and the crystal at the end of the staff lit brighter than ever. She struck the beast across the face, and the glow burned its eye. The creature shrieked, stumbling back into the trees. Its massive body crashed through branches as it fled, its roars echoing through the jungle until they faded into silence. The man fell to his knees, his body trembling. His hands shook. Blood smeared across his arms from the fight. He looked at the alien woman. She was breathing heavily, her silver skin marked with bruises and cuts, but her eyes glowed brighter than before. For the first time, she lowered her staff and looked at him not as a stranger, but as something else. Her lips moved, whispering a word, soft, uncertain. She repeated it again, pointing at him. Perhaps her word for warrior or protector. He did not understand, but he nodded, feeling the meaning. They had fought together against death itself and survived. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in fire and blood. The jungle was silent again, but it was no longer the silence of peace, it was the silence of warning. The man realized with dread that the beast they had faced was not the only one. There were more, many more hunting this island, and they would return, stronger, angrier. The alien woman seemed to know this too. She touched her chest, then pointed at him, her voice steady despite her wounds. It was not a plea. It was a declaration. She had chosen him, just as he had chosen to stand beside her. As the sun set that evening, they sat together near the shelter, firelight flickering across their tired faces. The man's body ached, but his heart was steady. He understood now. He was no longer fighting for survival alone. He was fighting for her, and she, in her broken strength, was fighting for him too. But deep in the jungle, the hunters stirred. Eyes glowing in the darkness, the battle was far from over. The true danger was only beginning. The dangerous offer. The fire burned low as night covered the island again. The man sat beside it, his chest aching from the fight. His arms were scratched, his legs bruised, yet his mind was awake, alive with the memory of the beast. Its roar still echoed in his ears. The battle had nearly killed them both. Across from him, the alien woman sat quietly, her glowing eyes fixed on the flames. Her silver skin shimmered faintly, marked with fresh bruises. Her wings were folded, close, broken yet still beautiful. She looked tired yet stronger somehow, as if surviving that battle had given her new fire. The man studied her in silence. He could see the weight she carried, not just of this island, but of her past. She was not simply stranded, she was abandoned. Her ship gone, her people gone. She had fought the hunters alone for so long, until now she turned her head, catching his gaze. For a long moment they said nothing. Then she spoke softly in her own tongue, her voice filled with a strange determination. He did not understand the words, but her expression was clear. Something had changed inside her. Slowly she reached into her satchel and pulled out a crystal, larger than the others, glowing with a soft pulsing light. She held it in both hands as if it were sacred. Her eyes met his and she extended it toward him. The man frowned, confused. He reached out but stopped halfway. Her voice rose, urgent. Now, she touched the crystal to her chest, then pointed to him, again and again. The meaning became clearer. She was offering him something. Something important. He finally took the crystal. Its surface was warm, almost alive. The moment his skin touched it, a spark shot through his veins. His vision blurred. His heart raced. He gasped, dropping it for a second. The alien woman grabbed, his hand steadying him. Her touch was firm, her eyes serious. Images flashed in his mind. Not words, but feelings. He saw stars, endless galaxies, ships soaring through the void. He felt pain, loss, loneliness. And then, her, standing alone on this island, hunted, broken, waiting. The connection ended as quickly as it came. The man staggered back, breathing hard, his eyes widened in shock. He looked at her. She was watching, him closely, waiting. Her lips trembled as she spoke again. Her voice was softer now, almost fragile. She touched his chest gently, then placed her hand back on her own. It was more than survival she was asking for. It was a bond, deeper than words. She wanted him to stay, to protect her, to accept what she was offering. He sat down heavily, his mind racing. The offer was dangerous, he could feel it. If he accepted, he would not just be a survivor on this island anymore. He would be bound to her, tied to her strange alien power. His fate would no longer be his alone. Part of him wanted to refuse, to hold on to the hope of escape. Maybe one day a ship would pass by. Maybe he could find a way off this cursed island. But another part of him, stronger, louder, felt something else. It remembered the way she had fought beside him, the way she had smiled for the first time, the way her eyes looked at him not as prey, but as something more. The alien woman lowered her gaze. Her wings twitched as if bracing for rejection. For a moment, she looked smaller, fragile, as though this offer cost her more than any wound. She whispered something again, almost like a plea. Her voice shook, the man's chest tightened. He reached for the crystal once more, holding it in his palm. It pulsed again, faint but steady. He closed his fist around it. His decision was not final, not yet, but by holding it, he showed her he did not reject her. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. She exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. For the first time, her shoulders relaxed. She reached out and touched his arm lightly, a gesture of trust. Her touch was soft, trembling, but real. The jungle roared in the distance, reminding them both that danger had not vanished. The hunters were still out there, more of them waiting, but inside the shelter, something new had formed. Not just a bond of survival, but a choice, a dangerous offer that could change both their fates. The man stared into the fire, the crystal glowing in his hand. He wondered if he had just tied himself to a destiny he could never escape, yet when he looked at her, fragile, luminous, brave, he felt no regret. The night dragged on slowly. The fire cracked softly. The jungle whispered outside, and the glowing crystal pulsed faintly in the man's hand. He could feel its warmth, like a heartbeat not his own. It was not just a stone. It carried a part of her power, her loneliness, her hope. The alien woman sat across from him, her glowing eyes fixed on his hand. She had given him her greatest treasure, the one thing that tied her to her people. Her broken wings shifted slightly, her face pale in the dim light. She looked strong, but he could see the question in her eyes. Would he accept her offer, or turn away? The man stared at the crystal. His thoughts spun in endless circles. If he kept it, if he bound himself to her, he might never leave this island. He might never see another human face again. His freedom would be gone, but if he refused, if he walked away, he would not survive, and neither would she. The silence between them grew heavy. Finally, he lifted his eyes to hers. "I don't know what this means," he said softly, even though she could not understand his words. "But I know one thing, I can't leave you." The alien woman tilted her head. Her eyes softened. She did not understand the words, but she felt the truth in his voice. She reached forward slowly, her trembling hand touching his chest just above his heart. The crystal in his palm pulsed. brighter, as if responding. Then the jungle screamed. A chorus of roars shattered the stillness. Shadows moved between the trees, multiple hunters this time. Their glowing yellow eyes shone like fire in the darkness. The woman gasped, snatching up her broken staff. The man leapt to his feet, gripping both the crystal and his wooden weapon. The beasts charged into the clearing, their massive bodies crashing through the trees. 5 of them, larger than the one before. Their scales shimmered, their teeth bared. The earth trembled under their weight. The man's chest tightened. Fear burned in his veins. But when he looked at the alien woman, standing, firm, her wings spread as wide as they could, her staff glowing faintly, his fear hardened into resolve. The first beast lunged. The man dodged, striking with his plank. The blow did little, but it bought him a moment. The woman swung her staff, crystal light burning into another beast's flesh. The monsters shrieked, snapping their jaws, circling them both. The fight was chaos. The man moved with desperation, striking, dodging, rolling through dirt and blood. The woman fought like a flame, her staff glowing brighter with every strike. Yet the beasts kept coming, stronger, faster, surrounding them. One beast slammed into the man, knocking him to the ground. His wooden weapon snapped in half. His breath left his body. The creature's jaws opened above him, yellow eyes blazing. In that instant, the crystal in his hand flared like fire. A shockwave burst from his palm, throwing the beast back with a roar. The man gasped, staring at his hand in disbelief. The crystal's power was flowing into him. The alien woman's eyes widened. Her lips parted in awe. She shouted something, her voice fierce and commanding, urging him to use it. The man rose to his feet, the crystal glowing brighter now. He raised it high, and for a moment the night lit up as if stars had fallen into the jungle. The beasts snarled, circling uneasily. Their hunger met something new. Fear. Together, man and alien stood side by side, fighting as one. His strikes now carried power. Her staff burned brighter. Every blow drove the beasts back. Every roar was met with defiance. At last the final creature shrieked, wounded, and fled into the jungle. The others followed, their glowing eyes vanishing into the shadows. Silence returned, heavy and broken only by the crackle of the fire. The man dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. The crystal dimmed but still pulsed softly. The alien woman knelt beside him, her hand gripping his shoulder. Her glowing eyes shone with something new, admiration, gratitude, and something deeper. She whispered softly in her tongue, a word she repeated again and again, pointing to the crystal, then to his chest. The meaning was clear now. He had accepted her offer, whether he spoke it or not. They were bound. The man looked at her, his body trembling. His heart pounded not just from the battle, but from the realization of what he had chosen. He could never go back, never return, to the life he had before. His fate was tied to this island, to her. Yet when she leaned closer, her forehead brushing gently against his, he felt no regret. Her presence was more powerful than freedom, more real than fear. The dawn rose slowly, painting the sky with fire. The man stood with her at the edge of the beach, watching the endless ocean. He knew rescue might never come. He knew this island would never stop testing them. But he was no longer alone. She had given him an offer he could not refuse. And in choosing her, he had chosen a future unknown, dangerous but alive with possibility. The storm had brought him here, but she had given him a reason to stay. Together, human and alien, they turned away from the sea and walked back into the jungle, not as strangers, not as survivors, but as something far greater. The bond between them was sealed, and the island, with all its dangers, would never break it.